This tutorial is going to take us through a series of open string riffs in the key of G that will take us through one complete 12-bar blues progression in a country style. So I'll play the licks now, and then we'll talk through them all note by note. Here's how they look. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Alright, and at the end you'll see some jam along videos where you can play along nice and slow like that with the band, and then at a medium tempo and at a fast tempo, and at the end we'll do it 3 times in a row every time. That just really, if you can play it once, you can kind of fool yourself into thinking you got it. Twice is a little harder, but if you can play through it 3 times in a row, you'll really nail it and kind of internalize what we're doing. So we're going to start by just going through every single one of those riffs. So we're in the key of G. The background chords, we're kind of working with G7s, C7s, and D7s, and so these riffs are really kind of outlining those chords as we move through this 12-bar blues progression. The first riff we're going to get our fingers on is this. Alright, we could also play that, but it's got a whole different sound, right? When we use these open strings, it gives it a real unique kind of country sound. And part of the reason for that is we're letting multiple strings and notes ring out at the same time, which is kind of mimicking a pedal steel. But all we're really doing is replacing some of the notes that I just played with open strings. So the first one we're going to replace is this 5th fret of low E. We'll replace with the A string open, and on down the line. So the 5th fret of A is a D note. We're going to replace that with open D. Then up here is a B note. We're going to replace that with the open B string. And 5th fret of D is a G note. We're going to replace that with the open G string. So you'll see through this whole thing, most of the downstrokes are going to be with a pick, and what would be upstrokes will be with my middle finger or my ring finger on my right hand. So we're going to be hybrid picking or chicken picking this. As always, this is all tabbed out at 6stringcountry.com, so pull those up. Those will really help. Let's walk through it right now. The first note is this 3rd fret of the low E string, and then we're going to cluck the A string open, then 6 to 7 on low E, open D string, 6 to 7 on A, open G string, 7 of D, open B string, 7 of G, slide up to 9, then cluck the 8th fret of B, cluck the 10th fret of B. Alright, so you can kind of have this imaginary line across the 7th fret that we're kind of working through after this first note, right? Slide up. So your clucking finger, this middle finger with all those open strings, is really just moving down the line. A, D, G, B. Alright, this next little one is kind of a bluesy. We're going after the G7 feel here, so it will look like this. So with our pinky finger, we're going to be up all the way on the 11th fret of B. We'll cluck it and then do a quick slide down. So that's 11, 10, 8. Then open high E string with your ring finger on your right hand. Then you can pick the 7th fret of G, slide it down to 5, kind of pull it off to open, then 3 to 4. Then your ring finger on your left hand goes over to the D string, pull it off to open, then slide in from 3 to 5, cluck the open G string, and repeat. Alright, so that whole thing all together from the top. All right, then we do the C7 riff, which looks like this. All right, let's get just that much. So, all right, so this is the second line of those tabs now. 8 to 6, we're gonna cluck that. Pick the 7th fret of G, open high E string, 5 to 3 slide, 5 of D now, open G, 3 to 5 on D, open G. Now we're doing the 6 to 7 on the A string, and then 5th fret of the G string. So we're playing, the band's playing a C7, right? And we just played all those notes. We're just outlining a C7 chord. So one more time. All right, continuing on, we'll get our ring finger on our left hand covering the 5th fret of G and B, and our pointer finger is going to be behind it on the 3rd fret. We're going to do 2 clucks there. Hammer on to 4 of G, 5th fret of D to open. Now shift your hand down to get your ring finger up here on the 3rd fret. And do that again. And then we'll go. All right, so let's look at that again, then we'll kind of dissect it a little further. If you're playing this really fast, like the last jam along that we'll provide on here is at 175, you'll probably need to play that. But if you're playing it a little slower, you can put a little more feel into it. All right, so we just got done with the open D string, 3rd fret, open G string, repeat. This one's 3rd fret of G with a quick pull off to open. 3rd fret of D to G. Now we're gonna do this. Slide in from 3 to 4 on G. 3rd fret of B, open high E string. Slide all the way up to the 7th fret of G, to the 8th fret of B. And then you're set up. It's a little bit of a reach with your pointer finger for the D riff. All right, so let's take a look at that D riff a minute. Again, the band's playing a D chord, D7 chord, and we're going. We could also, if we weren't doing an open string riff, it would be. Right? But we're basically just playing a scale, but we're substituting some open strings in here. We've got the 5th fret of the high E string to 7 of B. We're going to cluck that 5th fret of high E, pick the B string, open high E, just walk right down the 7th fret, pick the 7th fret of G, open B string, 7th fret of D, open G string. Shift your fingers down, so your middle finger is now going to go 3 to 4 on D, open A, 3rd fret with a bend to open D string, 1st fret of low E, and then kind of slide in with your middle finger to that 3rd fret. So one more time. All right, and then the very last riff is kind of a fun one. All right, so we're gonna wait on this 3rd fret of low E. 1 and 2 and 3 triplet, 4 triplet, 1 triplet, 2 and 3 and 4 and then that's it. Unless we're repeating, then we just launch right back into it. Okay, so we're up here on the 2nd fret of the G string. We're gonna hammer on to 3. This is picked. Open B string is clucked. 3, 2, O on G. 3, 2, O on D. And then we're out of the triplet feel here. We're going to go 3rd fret of A, open D, 3rd fret, open D, 3rd fret of A with a bend, and then you're back into it. All right, so let's do the D string all the way to the end. And then we're back into it. All right, now we've got our fingers on all the pieces of the riff through the progression. Again, this will get us through a whole 12-bar blues progression in this country style. We've got 3 jam-along tracks coming up. We've got a slower one at 100 BPM, then mid-tempo at 150, and then faster at 175. And again, you'll see we're going to cycle this riff through. So we're going to do the whole thing, then just keep going right on for a second time, and then right on for a third time. It's funny, we can often kind of fake our way through one time and convince ourselves, I'm terrible about this, convince ourselves that we just nailed it. But you really can't do that if you're making yourself play it right 3 times in a row. So we're going to do that nice and slow at a mid-tempo, and then nice and fast.